committee, the whole meeting, and Jason, we're all good on your end?
Yep.
Awesome, thank you. All right, let's jump in. A couple of things. Hopefully we can get both done in the committee of the whole. If not, we'll do the budget amendments after 7 o'clock, but if we can get to it before 7, we will. But I'm going to open up if we can. I see Jason Washler coming on. Evening, Jason. Good to see you. And then, so we'll lead this off with Scott. Let's talk about the engineering recommendations for Fruit Ridge. So Scott, I'm going to turn this over to you at this point.
Sure. We've got a project out there called the Fruit Ridge Avenue North Ridge Drive traffic signal and improvements. It's primarily a traffic signal, but there's the potential of a right turn lane there from northbound Fruit Ridge to North Ridge also. And so we put the RFP out for that. Pretty typical process that we go through 2 or 3 times a year. All 3 firms submitted proposals. All 3 firms are obviously great firms, so they wouldn't be working for us. In this case, the committee, after a couple of different meetings to make a decision, decided on Prine and Newhoff. Their proposal, which is included in your packet, was for a total of $86,400. Of that, about $36,000 was for design, $47,000 for construction engineering, and then there's about $3,000 in there for potential easement acquisition if necessary. So we don't have all the construction numbers tied down yet because we still need to see what the project's going to entail, but we're very comfortable with Prine and Newhoff. Obviously, they've done a lot of good work for us, and that's who we are recommending for this for the design of this project.
So Scott, can you give me like 2 highlights as to why you chose them?
Yeah, one highlight would be that they in their proposal had a bunch of, call it insider information. You know, they did a lot more work on the front end to show that they had kind of a mastery of this project. There's some fiber optic out there that is a joint project between the school district and the city of Walker. And that was one of the things they had pointed out as a concern that nobody else had really kind of done the homework on to figure out. I think if you're asking for 2, the other one would be that they have an in-house traffic designer, and the other firms had to farm out a lot of the work, and Prine and Newhoff was going to do most of this work under the Prine and Newhoff umbrella, which I think probably helps as well with coordination.
Well, I noticed that there was just a lot of detail on on each of the proposals, and I just thought, wow, that's going to be it's had to have been a hard decision to kind of weed one of them out. But so I was just kind of curious as to what your thoughts were on that. So thank you for that.
And it was hard. We had to meet twice. The first time we met, we said it wasn't as hard to discard one of them, but then between the other 2, it was really splitting hairs. And to be honest, we can't go wrong. We've got 3 great firms working for us. So, we're very comfortable with Prine and Newhoff or any of our other firms for this project.
Yeah, I can understand that. Okay, well, thank you.
Sorry, Gary, you're on mute.
Thank you, Commissioner Glanville. I'm sure you all wanted me on mute. Thank you. No, real quick while we're on here, we've got both Scott and Jason Washler from Prine and Newhoff, not an unfamiliar face to us. So I don't know, for the commissioners, are there any other questions on the project? And I would offer up even before that you're probably going to see some significant movement probably over the next 60 to 90 days with developments in that area. One probably north of Irwin Seeding, and then some more in the Northridge, the extension that we just did towards Amazon. You'll see some site plan reviews starting to come up in the coming months. So I think the impetus on us to move quickly on this is that growth, and we're going to need to have a signalized intersection up there. So it's just obviously very important. So any other questions, comments on this?
Yeah, if I may.
Yes, please.
Yep, I just wanted to say that was the point with Kenowa Hills and the fiber optic there really caught my eye. I was really impressed to see that in the report and noticed it was not in any of the others. And to Scott's point, it seemed like, some of the other, there was a lot of good content, but that was something that I thought was really important. And I just asked that we keep our eye on that, particularly given the challenges of schools this year and who knows going into next year, the timing of when this work gets done and how that gets done. It's going to be real important for us to partner with the school on that, just to keep the continuity of their service going. Whether they're under COVID or not, I know they obviously, technology and the fiber optic network that they have is important to them. And I don't know how much, if anybody's aware of this or not, but I know at some point there was some discussion, and I believe there's actually some networking amongst all the school districts under KISD, where they kind of share some fiber optic networking. I could be wrong there. I'd need to check that. It's been a while since I've been in those conversations, but just something else to keep in mind. It might not just be us, but it could be others that are impacted by that as well. So just bear that in mind.
Awesome.
But thank you.
Yep.
Looks like a good proposal.
All right, commissioners, any other questions? Seeing none. Jason Washler, any comments, questions, words of wisdom from Pride and Newhouse perspective?
No, I'm just looking forward to continuing to serve the city and enjoyed working on lots of challenging projects that seem to come up often. And this one, although it's not technically complex, the schedule is very complex because it's very quick. It's 20 to 24 weeks to get the poles delivered. So constructed this year, we do need a head start, and I feel like we have that already.
Fantastic. Good. Thank you much. Commissioner, I'll going one more time here, and I probably can't even cut Jason loose, Jason Washler anyway, cut him loose at this point, unless there's any other questions for him. All right. Any concerns for approval this evening? Going once, going twice. Seeing none. Jason Washer, will let you enjoy the evening. Thank you much for joining us.
Thank you.
Great, thanks. All right, and if we can, let's, Scott, well, I've got you real quick, and I'll slide over to Dan. Looks like we're going to be great on time here to get everybody in. Resolution 21-592, and I do have a question for our clerk on the packet itself. The document I'm looking at says 590, but the agenda says 592. When I go to the last meeting, our last resolution was 591. So I just want to confirm that this is resolution 21-592. Yep. There you go.
592.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. All right. So we're good there. Scott, any background you'd like to share on the construction standards, public right of way? We've already talked about this a bit, but just throwing this if there's anything additional.
Yeah, I'm here really just to kind of answer questions that may have popped up. This is the second reading, so we've discussed it extensively at Ordinance Committee. We also had a presentation last time from Travis at the first reading, so I'm here kind of as a safety net, I suppose.
Okay. Commissioners, any questions, comments for Scott? All right. All right. At this point, Commissioner Groders, just saw your text. Thank you. All good. What we'll do then, Scott, if it's all right with you, I mean, if you're welcome to stay on. I think we have what we need here. We can cut you loose for the evening if that helps.
That sounds terrible.
Oh, good.
Thank
right.
you.
Yeah, good. Thanks. Appreciate it, Scott. Mr. DeVries, right down the hall. Let's slide over to you. Finance recently met, and we went through budget amendments for this fiscal year. I would offer up both Daryl and I know we're on an MML call at noon today, and it appears that there is a very strong push for not just state funding, but federal funding as well. Our state funding, as it currently sits in the governor's budget, we're slated to get a one-time assistance of 2.1 million to help offset our lost income tax revenue. We have not budgeted any of these numbers, federal, state, or otherwise, into our to our budget for this year, for next year, quite frankly. So anything else that we get will mean that we're able to get some projects back on track and otherwise. But I want to kind of tee that up for you, Dan, and that the amendments we've are making are based on real-time numbers year to date, and we're going to need to have these things done so that we are clean on our budget going into the fiscal year end here.
Correct. Yes. Thank you. Yeah. So these are based on numbers as of just a couple weeks ago, and most likely we'll have at least another one round, if not two rounds of budget amendments before the end of this fiscal year. What you have in front of you is a list of 4 pages. Basically, the first 2.5 are general fund related. And if I could just walk through the revenue a little bit, just to point out some of the bigger changes that we have. As everyone knows, we have 3 funding sources: property tax, income tax, and state revenue sharing. So property tax is the first one on there. We're going to propose to increase the budget by $70,000 based on what the roll is showing for this year. But then the next one down is our income tax. That's the big one. We're proposing a 1.5 million decrease to the budget. We've talked to Julie Block on different occasions. She's still monitoring it very closely, but this is our best guess for right now. Going forward into next year's budget, we're also going to put in 10.5 million. And again, see what happens with that as we get further into May. We should have a better idea for this year. And but as the mayor said, none of the proposed monies that are being talked about at the state or federal level have been included in this or in the proposed budget for next year. So again, working our way quickly down the revenue area, there's a section for building permits, electric permits, those types of things. There's a sizable increase in those. We've had some good projects go through. So we're going to reflect the revenue received from that. About halfway down the page, you'll see a $79,000 amount, and it will say CARES Act money to it or next to it. There are 5 of those. These are all the different CARES Act monies that we've taken in this fiscal year. And without going into great detail, unless you want me to, I mean, those are all coming either directly from the state via the federal government, or some came directly from Kent County. That's the $398,000. So basically the amendments are just getting us up to what we've actually received in this fiscal year. Going a little bit further down, there's a $118,000 increase. That's from the proceeds from the sale of the Edison house. That's what that's all about. A little further down, there's a negative of 192 in the change column, or the amendments. That's the court revenue. Obviously, the court has not been, for any court, I don't think has been doing very well this year. So this is just to kind of get us back on track of what actual numbers are showing. And then the final 2 under the revenue are interest on investments. And as all of you, I'm sure, are seeing in your personal accounts, the interest rates are basically nothing. So again, just trying to get those back into reality at this point. So so if you look then on the far right column there, it says a negative 460,000, which is pretty good. It means we're losing 460,000 in revenue per budget, but of that 1.5 million was an income tax reduction. So we've gained back quite a bit through the CARES Act and building permits and that type of thing. So then the next several pages are more the expenditures for the general fund. They're split out by department. So you can see on the left-hand side, for example, it would say 101 governing body, and then list a general ledger number, and then say conferences and training. So it's showing that the governing body, which is actually the city commission, that was your department, and then you would go to the court, and then we'd go to the managers, and that's how that all works. You'll notice you'll see a lot of lines that talk about salary or FICA, health insurance, those types of things by the various departments. Again, these are just trying to get us back to actual of what we're showing on those. A lot of the salary adjustments were based on merit changes that were granted throughout the year, and we actually have a line item which is under the manager's department. It's the last one there. It says performance evaluation implementation. That's kind of a placeholder so that when we grant a merit increase, we charge it to that particular individual's department, but then we will reduce it out of this budget line. So basically it's a zero effect on the budget. It's basically like we'll be adding it up to someone else's area, but then taking it away from this particular one. So let's see, I didn't have a lot others on the expenses on the first page. On the second page, the second and third section down are related to elections. Those are just, again, adjusting us to reality as it shows right now. Under human resources, it says pre-employment screening, that's Department 270. We've had a lot more hires than we had anticipated. And so there's more screening that has been done. And then under police and fire, there are some adjustments, but the one I wanted to point out would be under police, the third line down, it says first responder hazard pay, COVID-19. We had gotten money specific from the state for hazard pay. So on the first page, under the COVID area, you would see a $79,000 increase. And then that is offset by this one in police and the one in fire, and those will zero each other out, basically. So it was $1,000 per active person out on the road, shall we say, that qualified. So, so that's what that is. Let's see, going down again under on page 2, community development, Department 370, you'll see a big increase under the outside inspections of $45,000. That is for our PCI contract. We've been having obviously more building going on than we had anticipated, so they get a percentage of the permits on the plumbing and the electrical and the mechanicals. So this is, again, trying to get us back up to what we are actually going to experience. But on the flip side, we have received more revenue from those permits as well. At the end, the bottom of that page under parks, the last one under parks is capital capital improvement. We're proposing a big reduction there. Not proposing to do any big park improvements yet between now and June. And we really don't have anything scheduled for the next fiscal year too. That might be one of those areas that if and when we get some more revenue in, we would put some of those kind of projects back in. But that was a big reduction there. And then on page 3, I just wanted to touch on the last area of the Department 900, which is kind of the catch-all department, if you will. And the last 4 areas or 4 lines are the transfers from general fund to other funds. And so the first one there is the transfer out to WIFIC. And we're requesting a $300,000 increase for this current fiscal year. WIFIC got hit really hard, obviously. ICE is starting to come back, but the fitness side has really taken a hit. Like, we are anticipating maybe only 25 to 30% of what we had budgeted for fitness revenue to come in yet for this fiscal year. So that's why that one's so big. And the next one down would be our transfers out to the facilities sinking fund, which is our fund 120. And then below that is the OPEB set aside fund. And those each have roughly 400,000 in them right now. So the thought was we would not do those transfers this year, use that money to help either supplement the WIFIC or other things that might come up. And then the last one there is the 400,000 we had talked about a couple weeks ago for the capital equipment fund. So that's just officially putting it on there. So when all is said and done for the general fund, it's about $1 million of budget amendments. So more expenditures than revenues. So that would be a deduction from our fund balance at that point. That's what we're showing now. And again, this number then gets transferred into that draft 1 budget that was submitted to Sarah as of the 15th of this month per the charter. So those are all included as is. So let's see, we got 2 more minutes here.
Oh, you're fine.
Okay, all right.
You got plenty of time, Dan.
Okay. So then to finish out page 3, that again gets to that building facilities fund set aside and the OPEB, which we had just talked about. That's just showing the offset in the other fund. On page 4, we get into the major street fund, and all the amendments that are being proposed relate directly to projects. And I've worked with Scott and Travis a bit on these to get us some more realistic numbers of what we had budgeted prior to what they are seeing now. So basically all those amounts on there have been reviewed with Scott and or Travis. On the real positive side, that Walker Avenue Bridge removal seems to have come in quite a bit less than what we had initially budgeted. That would be the second line under the expenditures area. So that was a huge change of about 400,000 there. And then 2 lines below that, you'll see the Kinney Avenue improvements that we've been working on for quite a while. There's a big reduction amendment wise of 700,000, but basically what we're doing is we're splitting the cost between 2 fiscal years at this point because the timing is such that we're not going to get started on it until later. And so there's another $1 million in next year's budget, but and then the Sunset Hills overlay project, which is right below that came in way below budget. There was a big match by the federal government of, I think it was 81% roughly of the whole project cost, plus the project cost was way below what they had anticipated. So that was a nice savings for that fund. So bottom line for that fund would be a positive of almost 1.5 million for the fund balance. So that's a huge help there. Plus it's going to be a huge help in going into the next fiscal year as the transfer that we would typically do from the general fund to help supplement projects in the major street fund will not nearly be as large as it's been in years past, which is a very big bonus for the general fund going forward this year. So the next section down is just the local streets. Not much change there, just some housekeeping more or less, but also that helps with us going forward with the draft 1 budget to make it look a little bit better. Not that fund's in any significant issue problems, but just to clean up some stuff there. The one area below it is the Ice and Fitness Center. Now, I had mentioned that there are obviously there are a lot of differences going on between budget to actual right now. And instead of going through and making just a laundry list of amendments at this time, I thought maybe that would be something we could do at a future meeting. But what we wanted to do with this current round of amendments is basically we had approved the purchase of a new Zamboni that has been ordered. The decision was made to go with an electric version as opposed to a gas powered version. That cost went up then. So this is putting in the cost of the electric version. However, again, it's not covered out of our operating costs. It's covered strictly out of the capital set aside monies that we have. Currently, we have about 320 300,000, I think it was. Oh, 314,000 in that set aside right now. So, so the 155 would come directly off of that and have no impact on the operating budget at this point. And then finally, the last area is our improvement revolving fund that usually deals with water and sewer improvements. Basically, this is what I'm doing is taking monies out that I had understood were going to be paid out of there for the projects for that North Ridge extension and for the Walker Avenue Bridge removal. Those actually were tied up as part of the major street project total cost. So those costs related to those improvements were actually accounted for in Fund 202. So there was no impact on this improvement revolving fund. So I'm just getting those out of there, kind of a cleaning up type thing as well. So that's really trying to go through there fast. I'm happy to answer questions now. I'm happy to stay. I don't necessarily have, you don't have to kick me out at 7. I'm happy to stay and we can discuss them in further detail later if you'd like.
All right, commissioners, comments, questions for Dan? Hey, Marv, you're on mute. Here we go. Commissioner Rapp, there we go. Still can't hear you, actually.
Can you now?
Yes,
Yeah.
perfect. Thank you.
Oh, must be my earplugs. Thank you, Dan.
You, yeah.
Any other comments, questions for Dan? Well, we
I can give a little bit. Sorry, Roxanne, go ahead.
Can you remind me what the difference in cost was with the Zamboni from the one to the electric? What was that difference?
Yeah, the gas or propane powered
Yes.
one was around 105,000, and this one's going to be 152.
But the other, the current Zamboni that we have has been costing us quite a bit of repair throughout the last 5 years, from what I remember. Is
Correct. Yeah, they've had some engine. We've replaced the engine once. They've been having some engine issues again on and off. Plus,
Okay.
the one issue we're having right now is the refueling system is an older system, and they're having trouble getting parts for it.
that's what it was.
Yeah.
All right.
So the cost, they went and looked at that, and I don't quite remember what maybe Daryl or Frank does, but I know there was a cost associated with getting that fuel system up to where it needs to be, and an issue with trying to get parts, and a lot of them are from Canada or somewhere.
Right.
And so
So it wasn't just the vehicle itself, it was the other supporting parts too. Okay,
right.
that makes sense. All right.
Mhm.
I'm fine with that.
Okay, and then just to follow that up, they had looked at what it would take from the electric perspective to charge the new one, and it was like $1,000 upgrade that we needed in total, and it was set to go. So that cost was not nearly that bad, relatively speaking.
Okay. Super.
All right, thanks, Commissioner Shane. Commissioner Gilbert?
Yeah, so for my part, I did want to comment on the state revenues side. I know that we've been having a lot of discussions around that. I think there will be most likely some money coming down for some of that income tax reimbursement. So that is something that is a little bit on the back burner as a part of these budget amendments. It's something to keep in mind as we're prioritizing and we're looking at the decrease in fund balance, that probably a good amount of that we will get back, at least maybe even beyond that number, to help restore some of that loss there. Also, there was a 2% increase to revenue sharing proposed in the state budget, which will help us going into the following fiscal year as well, I would think. And as we look at these potential new revenues, one thing I would just like to highlight for myself is that if we're looking at restoring any of the cuts, one of the things that I would like to see put on the top of that list would be our OPEB set aside funds that we are not putting in additionally. I just know that's somewhere that I would certainly like to see some more progress made. I know those funds are kind of finicky at times, but it's just somewhere that we could stand to make some progress, I think. But that was it. The only other thing was that, and I said this in Finance Committee, but I was surprised to see the amount we're having to transfer out to the WIFIC fund that low, actually. I thought it might be more than that just with how hard they were hit. So that's something that doesn't, I mean, it's a big number, but it didn't surprise me one bit. And I think that I'm pretty happy with where we're at in these amendments.
Yeah.
All right.
Dan, I do just have one question. I'm trying to find it, and that's probably me, of course. How much are we down in court, like, from last year? So 2019 to 2020, obviously it's significant, we know that, but just for an example, how much is either percentage wise or actual dollar wise?
So if you're on page 1, the third line from the bottom of the revenues, the fine and court costs. Let's see, last year we had 513,000 that we had for actual, and this year we're asking to amend down to 400.
Okay.
So a good
So-
100,000.
So 2019 would have been 513 and 2020 would have been 460, right?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Okay, thank you. And now I see it, of course, when you pointed it out, I was able to find it.
Oh, that's fine.
Thanks.
All good. Any other questions, commissioners, on the budget amendments? Daryl, go ahead. Sorry.
Just one other comment. We are still awaiting a second payment for our public safety payroll reimbursement payment from the state as well. We're updated today at MML that they're still working through those final calculations. It's not a huge number, but it'll be a positive for us. So Dan, I don't know if that was another, 70, 80,000 maybe?
Yeah, I looked at that a little while ago, and it could be pushing 100 actually,
Okay,
from the last thing I saw. So.
okay. So then we should have that hopefully in the next few weeks.
All right. Good stuff. Thanks, everyone. All right, Dan, you are welcome to stay on. Otherwise, if you want to get to other things, you don't even have us on the background, you're welcome to. We're going to go ahead then at this point, call the regular city commission meeting to order. I'm going to help Commissioner Groders out just with the internet connectability for her. So I'll do a little pitch hitting if they're in vacation. So if I could ask you to please join me in prayer. God, as we come together for you this evening to do your will, we give thanks for our families, friends, and the good health that we all enjoy. We also give thanks for our family and friends and recognize those that we've recently lost to the pandemic or otherwise in the time we've been able to spend with them. We give thanks to those who go into harm's way to serve and protect us. We also recognize the opportunity to serve you in our roles. That opportunity and privilege to do so is something we remain grateful for every day. Thank you for all you've blessed us with. In your name we pray, amen.
Amen.
Amen. Thank you. Mr. Rotman, if you would not mind sharing the flag, I'll go ahead and lead us in Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. We pledge allegiance to the flag, of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Great, thank you. If I may ask the clerk, please, to call the roll.
Mayor Carey,
Present.
Commissioner Gilbert,
Present.
Commissioner Rapp,
Present.
Commissioner DeShane,
Present.
Commissioner Glanville,
Present.
Commissioner Groders,
Present.
and Commissioner Heisinger Chase.
Present.
Great, thank you. Welcome, everyone. First, I'll look for approval of the minutes from February 8th. Before we do that, I did catch one word I'd like to change, and it's under Commissioner and City Manager comments. The very last line before we have adjourned at 8:20 was asked by Commissioner Glanville if the city would remove the fraud question from these applications. I believe that should read felony question from these applications.
Okay.
So with that adjustment, if there's any questions or comments, please share them. Otherwise, look for motion for approval. Anybody? Approval of the minutes?
I'll make that motion.
I'll
Commissioner
second
Gilbert, support. Gilbert and Rapp, any other discussion on the minutes? All right, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Minutes are passed. Good, thank you. Next on the list, Jason Rotman, anybody in the public comment domain out there?
Nope.
All right, I'll ask again. Anybody in the public comment domain out there?
Nope.
Perfect. All right. Next, reports from the city manager on the engineering recommendations. Daryl, is there anything further you want to share on those?
No, I think it's a good choice and a great recommendation, and I would recommend that the city commission approve Pride and Newhoff for the project.
Okay. All right. And forgive me as I'm looking at this, I do not see this listed anywhere as a formal approval.
We'll just make a motion at this point and it'll be in the minutes.
Okay.
There is no resolution or anything.
Okay. All right, just to be clear.
Yep.
Any other discussion on the recommendation for engineering for the Northridge Fruit Ridge Drive intersection? Otherwise, I'll entertain a motion for approval and look for support.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Okay, I'm going to give Commissioner Chase support. All right. Motion from Commissioner DeShane, support from Commissioner Chase. Any other discussion on the engineering recommendations for the intersection approval? Otherwise, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? All right, motion passed. All right. Consent agenda next on the list is the expenditures in the amount of $699,680.89. Is there any discussion on the bills? Otherwise, I'll turn a motion for approval.
I'll approve it. Make the motion.
Commissioner Rapp, do you have support?
Second.
Thank you, Commissioner Glenn. Any other discussion on those? Otherwise, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Those opposed? All right, we'll pay the bills. Thank you. First up on the resolutions is 21-592, just to be clear, and then adoption of the City of Walker construction standards for public right-of-way and easements. Any other discussion on this? We covered it again in the 6:30 committee of the whole meeting. Otherwise, I'll entertain a motion for approval and support.
Make motion.
Commissioner Gilbert, thank you.
Support.
Support, Commissioner Glanville, thank you. Any other discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Those opposed? All right. Resolution 21-592 is passed. Resolution next on the list is 21-593, the budget amendments for fiscal year 2020 to 2021. And just a reminder, we are probably going to see a couple of these before we get to the end of the fiscal year. As our budget is obviously very fluid right now. We continue to get, I want to be optimistic about this, is we obviously have some impact, but it appears that there will be some help and financial support here to help fill those gaps in. So looking for any other discussion on this, otherwise I'll entertain a motion for approval.
I'll make a motion.
Support.
I'll support.
Commissioner
I'll
DeShane, Commissioner Gilbert, thank you. All right, write this down. Thank you. Any other discussion on this? Otherwise, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 There's opposed. I see Commissioner Groders. We got you. Thank you. All right. Next on the list is rapid fire, and we'll do these one at a time. This is the second reading of Ordinance 21-656 for Chapter 70. Any other discussion? Otherwise, I'll entertain a motion for approval and support.
Motion.
Commissioner Gilbert,
I'll second it.
Commissioner Rapp, thank you. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? All right, 21-656 is passed. Next is ordinance 21-657, second reading, section 82-203, 82-205. If there's no discussion on these, I'll entertain a motion for approval and support.
Motion.
I saw Commissioner Glanville up in the corner.
Perfect. Support.
Support Commissioner Gilbert. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Those opposed? All right, 21-657 is passed. Next on the list is ordinance 21-658, second reading, section 74 through 90.1. Any other discussion on this? Otherwise, I'll entertain a motion for approval and support.
Motion.
Commissioner Gilbert,
Support.
thank you. Commissioner DeShane. Any other discussion? Otherwise, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? 21-658 is passed. And last but not least, ordinance 21-659, second reading of section 18 through 32 of our ordinance. Any other discussion? Otherwise, I'll entertain a motion for approval and support.
I'll make the motion.
Thank you, Commissioner Rapp.
Support.
Commissioner Chase, thank you. Any other discussion? Otherwise, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? All right, done with the ordinances. We're good. 21-659 is passed. Jason Rotman, anybody else out there in the public purview for us?
Nope.
Thank you. I'll come back to you one more time just before we adjourn here. Otherwise, at this point, let's turn over to Commissioner City Manager comments. Let's start with our clerk this evening. Madam Clerk, you have the floor.
I have nothing. We're all set here.
All righty, thank you. Let's start, Mr. Wash.
Well, good evening, everybody. My comments will be real brief, but just to fill in some blanks that the mayor talked about earlier. Two projects that are coming through that are pretty significant. One to the north of Irwin Seating. We just got the plans in on that, and we'll look at this at site plan review on Thursday. It's a 285,000 square foot building with 5 tenant spaces. And it looks like about maybe a third of the building, maybe a little less, will be manufacturing and office, and the rest will be warehouse. So that will be a good project. And the other one that we'll look at on Thursday will be the extension of South Industrial Drive, which comes off of Northridge Extended and will cross the train tracks and then cul-de-sac into a large piece of property that's against I-96. There's a company that is looking at that site. That's a pretty big building. That's like a 500,000 square foot building. So Northridge East, the IPUD, Steve, you'll see this at Planning Commission to look at that layout and then look at how the street will cross the tracks and then dead end to the west. So just a couple of major projects coming down the line, and the Planning Commission docket continues to be full as well. So we're doing all right on that end. And that's enough for tonight.
Thank you.
Thanks, Frank.
All right, Daryl?
Just to kind of piggyback on Frank's comment on that project north of Irwin, we hope to try to capitalize on some of the jobs created by that project to maybe help us assist with the payment of this signal, the new signal. That's yet to be seen if we qualify for that, but it will offset our cost on the signal if we're successful with that project with an MEDC grant. And also related to that signal, if you recall, we did receive a payment from Visser Brothers when they put their project in, that they'll be paying for a quarter of that signal. They have already made that deposit with us when they started that project. So our cost estimate, I think at this point is around $400,000 to $500,000, but that could be less if we're successful with the grant. So just want to update you on that. Other than that, just pretty much consumed with either personnel items or trying to refine the budget with Dan.
Awesome. Thank you. Any questions for the managers? All right. Next to the right, we're both second ward commissioners on the top row of our Brady Bunch screen. So Commissioner Glanville, I'll let you go first, then Commissioner Shane next.
All right. One thing I just wanted to return to, as you mentioned in the minutes last time, talking about the fair chance policy ban the box, just wondering if we've made any, keeping that on the radar. Just want to know what work's been done on it or where we are with it in terms of bringing it back for discussion.
I think with the upcoming Personnel Committee meeting, we're hoping, and Joe, correct me if I'm wrong here, Shannon was waiting for information back from Jeff Sluggett yet. Should be relatively quickly, and hopefully that can get on the Personnel Committee agenda at that point. So Shannon is also speaking with the other municipalities in the area, benchmarking to see where we're at with that, and we'll share all the details with the group then.
Okay, great, thanks. Next, I wanted to talk about, thanks to Frank and for recommending the Ottawa County ZBA and Planning Commission webinar that comes up. I think it's about once a year. I know I had planned to go last year and I don't know what happened there, but I know I couldn't for whatever reason. And it was really insightful and useful to be there this year. So, and also really impressed with how many people attended and the amount of expertise in the room. It's not just for beginners. So anyone who's interested in, I know it's a compelling subject, Planning Commission and ZBA, but it really did, clarify and bring to mind, bring to the surface some of the things that we deal with and why the decisions are made the way they need to be made and things like that. So especially with some of these bigger projects we have coming up, I think having as much in our tool belts as possible to communicate with our constituents is an important piece. So I appreciate the heads up on that and the opportunity to attend. Speaking of attending things, MML's coming up. For those of you who haven't registered, it is virtual, so it's pretty flexible in terms of being able to go. And I hope that we can all take advantage of that and maybe share back some of the things that we find useful. I also wanted to give a shout out to the fire department and thank them for their golden nugget treasure hunt thing they had out there. I thought that was very clever. And a great way to get the kids, giving them something to do, get them involved. So that was kind of fun to see that. And I really appreciate the effort with the community engagement there. And the last thing I wanted to mention, I touched base with Daryl and Mary Kay over at WIFIC about doing something called Bring the Basics. It's a collection project that's run through a women's group called Women United through the United Way. More details forthcoming, but it runs through the month of March, and we'll be setting up a collection site at WIFIC to collect the basics. So things like linens, cleaning supplies, and then a variety of men's, women's, and children's personal care products. And it's pretty well listed. And then the things that are collected go to area organizations to support men, women, and youth who may find themselves in need. So more details forthcoming as I help make those connections with Mary Kay. So I think that's all I got.
Commissioner, just on that one, I think that's a great, as Daryl had shared with me, the details. If Nicole's not already aware,
Yep.
Let's make sure that we get some social media presence to support that.
Yep, for sure.
Awesome.
Yep.
All right, thank you. Commissioner DeShane, you're next up in the upper right there.
All right, Carol, that's a great idea. Can you make sure that Sarah's office gets a flyer on that as well? That's really helpful because a lot of people come in there, you get a lot of foot traffic in her office and then they get to see those flyers. And I think that is just an amazing cause to contribute to.
Sure.
Great idea. Frank, big shout out to you for the MDHHS order update. I really appreciate that. That's always very helpful. So I appreciate that. And it's very interesting to read. I also wanted to let you know that my daughter, Ava, would like everybody to know there is a blood drive that is coming up. It's going to be held at WIFIC, March 3rd and 4th from 10:30 a.m. to 6 p.m. And if you're interested, please send me an email and I can send you some information. Otherwise, there is a flyer in Sarah's office, I believe, as well as probably up by the WIFIC is also, but it's always a good thing to remember that there's people out there that are in need. So it's one way that we can kind of pay it forward. Other than that, I have nothing but love the golden nugget. And it's not just the youth that have been trying to find those treasures. I watched my neighbor next door dig out the golden nugget. Although his wife had to remind him that he needs to have 3 feet on each side, and he was too shy to take a picture and send it in, but whatever. But anyway, good event. I love it. I think it really engages the community and it keeps us all lighthearted, and it clears the fire hydrant so that we can get to them if necessary. So great idea. Keep them coming.
Awesome. Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Rapp, you're next.
I don't think I have anything. I'm good. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Commissioner Gilbert. You're right next.
Yeah. So we passed, we moved a couple of projects in Planning Commission on Wednesday. The Aloft Hotel over off of Walker Avenue is one that we've been playing around with for a while now. So we're glad to see that one off the docket finally, and good luck to them figuring out the issues that are remaining on the table for them. But they got the Planning Commission approval. Our Solowitz is doing a little bit of an expansion over on Remembrance Road. And we approved Starbucks up on Lake Michigan Drive in the Westtown development. So that'll be, I'm sure, another great draw to that new commercial area. One other thing I did want to bring up at the state level, something that I know has been a pretty sensitive subject last year, the aggregate issue. I sense that is coming back around, and it is coming pretty heavy. The stakeholders involved have gotten pretty, they've taken a different approach this time, I would say. It seems that there's been the work done to get some consensus among the governor's team and the Senate Democrats and the Senate Republicans as well. So I would expect that there will be a very different version of the bill introduced this year, and it will probably move quickly when the time comes. So I guess be ready. I would probably start engaging in some conversations with your with our elected representatives individually, and make sure that once we see the language that we kind of take the time to determine what we as individuals feel that we are comfortable with being in that. But I know MML will keep us in the loop, and they'll be doing the heavy lifting on it for us.
Hey, Steve.
Yep.
Could you keep me in the loop on that? Maybe one-on-one?
I absolutely will.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Next I have the third wards. Commissioner Chase.
I just wanted to say thank you to the commissioners who participated in Meet Your Commissioner. That's something that the community engagement will be working with Nicole on doing in March. And then we also worked on kindness cards that we did throughout the city in February. So those have gone out to a variety of businesses throughout Standale area.
Awesome. Good stuff. Thank you. Appreciate all that work in that committee. Commissioner Groders?
I'm all good.
You're not going to share how warm?
All set.
Know how warm it might be, or no?
No, I'm all good. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you for the courtesy. All right, Madam Clerk, I believe you had something?
Yes, I forgot to mention that last minute today, we've been trying to work as fast as we can. And Tricia gave me the green light just before 5 o'clock to schedule an ordinance committee meeting on Friday morning. So I did send an invite out because I was also talking to Jeff Sluggett at the end of the day. And he's going to be on vacation next week. So we really wanted to get that meeting in Friday morning to hopefully get a final chapter 22 for the mobile food trucks. And then the zoning part of Tricia's to get a preview of that at the ordinance committee. So she can then take that to Planning Commission on March 17. So I just wanted to give the whole city commission an update that we're finally getting there, and that's where it's at.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
And then the other thing I wondered is for planning purposes, just for the calendar and scheduling, March 17, I think it is, but the third Monday work session, are we going to have one or not have one?
I would say let's right now tentative just with budget things being there. I think I don't know if I want to make that decision with Daryl tonight, but we may have some things on March 17 we might need to talk about.
Okay, so
We
I'll
might-
make
we
sure it's
might
on the
not.
calendar. Okay.
Yep. Okay. All right, and then I'll transition. I just have two things. First is for the month of March, virtual meetings. For right now, we're going to stay there. Before we switch back to in-person, I will get feedback from the commission. It'll obviously be based on the health orders from the MDHHS at that point in time. But let's just, for now, we're planning on Zoom meetings for the month of March, and I definitely think we'll be done beyond that, maybe sooner, we'll see. So, and then last thing I'll leave you with is State of the City was actually taped on Friday. The location is kind of a bit of a secret. I'm going to keep it that way. I thought it was a very cool theme on that. And I would just say as I look at the city logo on our agenda, we've got 3 trees there. Just remember the symbolism of 3 trees, and the messaging is actually tied into that for this year. So it'll actually be out on March 1 at 11 a.m. We did use a professional video crew. We have a number of businesses that have underwritten the cost of that, and as we did last year. So we're in a good spot there. So State of the City will be out, more to come on that March 1. It'll be out at 11, and it'll come out on the forms of social media at that point. So I have nothing further. Jason Rotman, I'm going to check one more time. Anybody else out in the waiting room?
Nope.
All right. Otherwise, I'll entertain a motion for adjournment then. In support. Commissioner Rapp, I see you raising your hand. There we go. Commissioner Rapp, support. Commissioner Chase, thank you. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Thank you. We're adjourned. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, guys.